with Whitney. This is day 11. I am feeling really excited about this, especially because I was feeling very low energy earlier today and wondering how I was going to muster up the energy and the will to do this video. Last night I did my live stream at I think 11:30 p.m. And I actually just had an energy drink and now I feel so pumped up. I found a topic I'm really excited to talk about today. And I'm just so grateful to those who have tuned in day after day. But if you're brand new, thank you for being here. Today, I have more formatting and structure than usual. So I'm going to share some news that I've read about in the crypto world. I'm going to share some definitions of some terms that I wanted to learn more about. And I'm also going to get into a main subject about NFTs and whether or not they are similar or the same as a pyramid scheme and or MLMs. So that should be interesting. I did some research I'm excited to dive into. I was inspired by a TikTok video I saw earlier today. And speaking of TikTok, I'm going to go live over there too. I think I've worked through most of the tech issues that I've been having. Every day I feel like I'm tweaking a little bit more. As I mentioned last night, I think I actually had a faulty cable for my microphone, which was causing the input to drops and the streams to crash. I've also noticed that around the 40-minute mark, my stream will go out on platforms like LinkedIn. So I'm going to actually try to keep all my live streams to under 40 minutes. Initially, it was going to be an hour, but I just think that's too long since the majority of people are either listening to the private podcast or watching the recordings on YouTube. So thank you for those that are tuning in that way. And if you ever want to come join live, I've just kind of been a bit spontaneous the last few days. I've been aiming for a same time of day, but you could just turn your notifications on if you would like to know. And you can always message me too, by the way. There's actually a couple of cool things that I put on my website, whitneylauritsen.com/web3 with Whitney, as it's displayed on the screen and linked to on most of my profiles now. And yesterday I showed the changes that I made to that website just to make it really simple and easy for you to find information. The main new thing that I added was this section where you can actually submit a question or a topic request in advance, and I'll review it and try to incorporate it as long as it's not spammy. If it's a reasonable question, and there is no question too simple or basic. If you need me to repeat something, if you missed it when I talked about it before, I am happy to go over and over again. There'll probably be a fair amount of repetition in my videos, simply because new people are tuning in. I'm getting more confident in the flow of doing this series. And because it's live, it's always going to be a little bit different each time, but also new people tuning in live will probably bring me back to subject matters I've already covered. Also, sometimes my streams, due to the tech issues, just like cut out. This happened on day 3. This also happened yesterday on day 10. So if you're like, why did that abruptly end? It's probably because I couldn't figure out how to get it restarted and I didn't want to chop it into 2 separate videos or audio or podcasts. So I'm trying to keep it all in one. So again, thanks for bearing through. And I can't wait to get to the point where all the tech issues are smoothed out. I was thinking about how people on Twitch seem so good and so effortless. Like they've got all this fancy equipment, these cool backgrounds. And I'm like, I'm just not there yet, you know? And they probably were in the same position as me trying to figure it all out right now. So, yeah, that's why I'm especially grateful for people who have just been here and held space for me and supported me and cheered me on. It's just been awesome. So, anyways, the website, that's the main thing I added there. If you want to go back to previous episodes, you can watch them here, and then you can also go to the audio recordings. I noticed today that this audio recording section, which is like the private podcast, looks a little bit different on a mobile device. I checked it out on my iPhone, and I wasn't able to scroll, so I have to figure that out. But you can actually press like the forward and backward buttons to skip to different episodes if you want to do that on mobile, but it looks really nice on my desktop at least. And I'm still working on the Discord community. I talked a little bit about that yesterday and mainly how it's just not a major priority for me yet. because I want to focus on some other things. I've been spending more time on Discord, trying to make sure it feels like a good place worth my time and your time, so I can invite you into that. I've also mentioned that I will be doing some airdrops of my coin on Rally, which means you can get free cryptocurrency, whether you're on Rally or you want to try it out and just get a few to hold it and see what it's like. Will be happening soon. That also just needs a little bit more prep behind the scenes that I haven't gotten to. And I might just wait till there's a larger audience, gain some more momentum with all of this. So incentive to keep coming back, I suppose. All right, so before I dive into the main topic today, I'm going to start the Twitter stream, or the wait, no, there's so many platforms that begin with a T. The TikTok stream, which it always has the biggest audience and more engagement. So if you ever want to like jump into the TikTok party, you can go over there. That's linked on the Web3 with Whitney website, or you can just go find me on TikTok and join in. The only downside is I can't share my screen as I do over here. All right, oh, I have to connect my headphones. So the other downside is I have not found a way to connect the microphone, this microphone that's been causing all sorts of issues. I love it. I love the sound of it. I use it for my other podcasts. And for TikTok though, I've been using just my Apple iPhone headphones. So, you know what? I'm not able to like easily test my audio input. So hold on a second. I'm gonna, in real time, fix something or restart it. It's really hard to do with the stand I have. Okay, here we go. And wait, hold on, one more test. I'm so afraid of things not working. Okay, I think the headphones are connected, and I just gotta change my title. Paste. Okay, cool. Going live over there, and we'll kick things off. So I wanted to start off with some updates, and I'm going to try to do this in most, if not every episode, just so you kind of feel like you're in the loop if you're not already. And part of that is me reading newsletters, going into Discords, but also finding really good sources of reliable information in this space. And one that I just came across today is called Coindesk. And this is a platform that talks about Bitcoin and Ethereum and all different types of cryptocurrency. And so you can go on here, and it kind of reminds me of the CNN website or other news websites. So you can go on and just read what's going on in the marketplace right now. And this felt like maybe they do this every day, the market wrap. So mainly I just wanted to share based on something that I talked about a few days ago with people losing a lot of money in cryptocurrency. Today, January 28th, Bitcoin went up. It was up about 3% over the past 24 hours. And some alternative cryptocurrencies began to stabilize after a volatile week. So that's positive news if you're investing or I don't even know if I can use the word investing. When I was just new to the Rally platform, they actually encourage you not to describe Rally as an investment. And so because cryptocurrency is quite different than the stock market, I'm not sure. So I'm going to add that to my list of things to look up. One other thing I want to talk about, and I was going to talk about today, but something else, the NFT side of things felt more interesting to me. In the future, I want to talk about taxes as well as whether or not cryptocurrency is an investment. So stay tuned. I want to make sure I get the lingo right and really do my best to keep you informed. But if you have been concerned about buying cryptocurrency because you've seen the market drop, just know that there's an upswing again. Who knows how long that's going to last? We never really do. And then the other interesting piece of news that I saw trending on Twitter today in terms of cryptocurrency is that LeBron James made a crypto promise, as it's phrased on boardroom.tv. And what I found interesting is that his family foundation agreed to a multi-year deal with crypto.com. And crypto.com is one of the platforms that I actually used to buy my very first cryptocurrency. In fact, I think it was the first platform I ever used. And it's been a really nice platform. And so crypto.com is now sponsoring his home court in Los Angeles. And he's going to be, his foundation is developing a curriculum where students will learn about cryptocurrency, Web3, and jobs in and around the world of blockchain technology. And they believe that it's an industry that's only going to grow as students progress throughout their academic careers. So I thought that was really cool on a number of reasons. I mean, levels. I think when we see big names like LeBron James, people that we admire or trust, it can feel like, oh, maybe this is actually legitimate. But I especially like the fact that his foundation is helping younger people, students, and I think I don't know, I didn't share an age range, but I'm assuming like high school students, just helping them learn about what's going on in Web3 and cryptocurrency. And I remember learning about the stock market in school, and I wish I had paid more attention. Of course, when you're a kid, your interest might not even be in this at all. But the fact that they're just like helping students out in this way, and hopefully people of all different backgrounds and financial places. His school, I guess, is called I Promise, and it's in Akron, Ohio. So I don't know much about it, but I imagine that he's doing a lot of work to just help people be very educated and secure their future. So that was exciting to me. All right, so since people have started joining live, I wanted to dive into the topic, the main headline of this stream today, which is whether or not NFTs are a pyramid scheme or an MLM. And I've seen this mentioned a few times on social media. To me, from just a glance and from what I've seen in like videos on TikTok, which is what inspired me to share this today, I feel like it's coming from a little bit of a place of ignorance or skepticism, people that don't really understand what's going on, and they're just like glancing at NFTs and saying like, "Ugh, this just feels icky to me. This feels like people hyping it up. This feels like people trying to take advantage of or scam each other." And I've mentioned that across all my videos here. So I wanted to go and research more and see like, can I find some legitimate information about this? I'm sure other people are talking about it. And I found two really great articles. And there's a few points I want to get to before I do whether or not I think they're a pyramid scheme or an MLM based on that research. So first of all, one of the articles pointed out that the more you learn about a new paradigm like cryptocurrency and NFTs, the more likely you are to believe in it, thanks to something called the mere exposure effect and consistency bias. And that felt like a really important piece of information for me to read, given that I've been focusing more and more on this world. I've, thanks to platforms like Rally, the friends that I'm making, and now this series, I've become super consistent with learning Web3. So now I guess I do have a consistency bias, right? I'm super exposed to something, which is making me more and more likely to believe it. And I think that's important for us to kind of reflect on how we're becoming biased and where the truth lies in our interests. But on the other side, I think you can say the same thing about people who are skeptical, right? The more that people are exposed to skepticism and people agreeing with them, the more that they're going to believe it, right? And I think we see a lot of this when people are divided on subject matters. I mean, certainly during COVID, you could see people that were forming their opinions based on their friend groups, based on their families, based on the news sources that they were reading. And people on the other side that have different viewpoints than them are thinking like, how could they believe this? But I think one of the big reasons that humans tend to believe things is just that uh, consistency and the exposure and the bubbles that we're in. So I really like the articles I found today because they kind of go on both sides of this question about whether or not NFTs are a pyramid scheme. So that's what my aim today is, to like explore it. What's also interesting is that crypto and NFTs are still pretty far from going mainstream, and so is Web3. I mean, I've said this many times. We're still in Web 2. We're not at a point where everybody is doing this. Like cryptocurrency is still feeling like a concept in a lot of ways, even though it seems like every day more and more people are using it and talking about it. We still have a long way to go, and especially in terms of social acceptance. So I think it's very important for us to keep in mind when we're reading news and seeing other people's opinions, that they're still coming from a place of the non-mainstream point that we're in with Web3. And a lot is going to change. Now, there is more acceptance in a lot of ways. Cryptocurrency and other forms of Web3 are becoming more established, I think, every single day, really. I mean, the LeBron James news is a perfect example of it. So I still believe that it's going to be transformative, but whether or not that's a positive transformation or not, I guess remains to be seen. So the two articles I'm going to reference, I will put in the notes of all the recorded videos. If you're watching on TikTok, you can go over to my website. I might have like a resource section or a blog at some point. My idea with Discord is to have notes for every single episode. So TikTok is hard for me right now to share links with you, but there is a link in my bio for those of you watching on TikTok, and you can click that and get more info. And that's mainly if you want to read along or go check out any of the resources that I'm mentioning here. So the first one is a really good breakdown on this idea and this question. It's from every.to, and the title of it is NFT Projects Are Just MLMs for Tech Elites, a somewhat impartial review of the current NFT business models. Now, this came out in September 2021. So it's already kind of dated in the sense that things rapidly change in just a few weeks, especially over the course of a few months. But it made some amazing points. And then the other article I'm going to be referencing kind of mixed in is from fstoppers.com. And the title of that article is NFTs Are a Pyramid Scheme and People Are Already Losing Money. Now, I want to say that these articles are not quite as one-sided and conclusive as the titles. I think the titles are definitely very clickbaity, keyword rich. These are what came up when I searched for NFT pyramid scheme MLM on Google. But when I read them, they had a lot more in-depth points. So let's get into them. Number one was the point that recruiting new believers is key to growth. And that first article on every.to made a lot of comparisons to MLMs like LuLaRoe or LuLaRoe, I forget how you pronounce it. But if you watched any of the documentaries about that clothing MLM, you may be feeling kind of skeptical. And gosh, there's I watched the one on Amazon Prime. I forget what it was called, Lula Rich. And then I saw another one on Hulu that looked like it was a different documentary. I have not watched that one yet, but it's really fascinating. And it's worth watching to understand how pyramid schemes and MLMs work and really get into the psychology of them. That's one of my biggest takeaways is how the people got involved with LuLaRoe, how they felt misled, how some people really benefited from it. And that would give you a lot of context. But if you don't feel like watching the documentary, please go read this article at every.to because it has a lot of the bullet points. And in terms of recruiting new believers and that being part of the key to growth for something like an NFT, is that MLM's their growth rely on existing sellers telling and convincing new people that this product is the future. And in terms of the doctrine of NFTs, you push the value of your own asset higher. So I think this is what is really important to examine is all the hype around NFTs and cryptocurrency and the Web3 in general is really examining what is the reason that someone is pushing this so hard. And I want to pause for a moment to be transparent about myself. Somebody asked me this like on my second or third day of this series, like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to learn and it's part of my consistency. I want to show up, I want to talk about it and build my confidence just discussing it and answer questions, but learn from other people. It's not monetarily driven. Now, even when I mention my crypto creator coin at Rally, that's mainly just so if you want to try it out and you're interested in Rally, you can get it. If you want to join the Discord, you'll need to buy at least one coin, which is like 15 cents. And my aim is that because the Rally platform is so easy to use, to me, it feels like a low barrier to entry for those that are interested in cryptocurrency. And then if you decide to participate in the airdrops I do, you're going to need a Rally account, right? Is there a financial benefit to me? Yes, absolutely. I'll always be transparent with you, but it's not major. I've actually never withdrawn money from my Rally account. So, a little behind the scenes is that I'm keeping it all in there, just like I do on my other marketplaces and wallets that I have crypto. I've never sold it. I've never converted it to my bank account. That's not my aim. My aim is to experiment and grow. But I'm going to continue to examine this amongst myself. And am I trying to convince people to do something to show them the value so that I could benefit? I think on a level, absolutely, right? Like it feels good when other people believe in something that you believe in, right? It feels good when people even challenge you. So the challenge of reflecting on whether or not NFTs are a pyramid scheme has been really helpful for my brain. So I think there are absolutely benefits, and this idea of like trying to convince somebody about something is really worth reflecting on. But that also helps me understand how I feel when other people try to convince me, right? And I think most of us know what it's like to be pressured by someone. Like I mean, whether it's religion, whether it's education, whether it's buying something, whether it's peer pressure to do something where you're not quite sure yet. And then you feel like somebody is really like pushing you beyond your comfort zone. I'm not a big fan of that. Sometimes it's good to get out of our comfort zone. That's the name of my podcast. This might get uncomfortable, right? It's all about how a lot of times our growth happens outside of our comfort zone, but it's really relative to each situation. In terms of Web3, I need to take it slow. At this point, I'm trying to just do a little bit each day. I'm not going to go all in, especially not financially. I'm not ready for that yet. And sometimes I feel FOMO, the fear of missing out, which was a subject matter a few days ago on this series. Sometimes I get anxious. In fact, one of the other articles, the F Stopper article, had this point about how almost every tweet telling you about an NFT auction that you should get involved with will remind you that artwork will only be available for a brief window. So powerful that you probably feel like you're already losing money by not having signed up yet. And I absolutely have felt that way. I talked about a few days ago how in developing my own NFTs, when I first started working on my NFT project back in August 2021, I felt all this time pressure. Like, I got to do this really quickly. If I don't do it now, I'm going to miss out. And then over time, I realized like that doesn't feel right for me ethically. I don't want to rush something just so I can benefit from it. If I'm going to do NFTs, which I still plan to do, the whole aim for me is that it benefits everybody. As I've said over and over again in this series, the mutual benefits are key to me. They're core. I don't feel comfortable taking from people without giving back. Vice versa, too. I don't want someone to take from me without them giving back in most cases. So I don't like this idea of like you're gonna miss out on something, and I really am gonna work and do my best to never make you feel like that when you're watching these videos. Another point that came up in these two articles is, and this kind of went back to LuLaRoe. This goes back to a lot of stories that we hear online about people getting rich. And in terms of NFTs, you've probably heard these stories. You've very likely heard these through cryptocurrency of people launching one NFT project and making a ton of money. There's a couple cases of like kids on uh sorry, I'm laughing at a YouTube comment that I'm not even going to address here. There's an example of this kid, I think, that launched one of the really popular NFT projects and made a ton of money. And it's used by the media to sensationalize, to like show that example. And in LuLaRoe, you saw this too. Like, I don't know if this was a true example, but one of these articles references a lady who could barely afford a $5 box of cereal and then bought her dream home because she was part of LuLaRoe, right? Both of those paradigms benefit from an illusion that mediocrity prevails. Um, so I think it's important for us to step back and like notice when we're getting into the comparison trap, notice when we're feeling like, oh my gosh, so and so did it, so can I. that's not always the case. I've noticed that over and over again with all of my work. Like anytime I try to use somebody's luck as a reason that I should be doing something, anytime that I feel like I'm trying to like use some big story in the news of like someone who hit it big and went viral overnight. I mean, we see these stories constantly through the media and on social media platforms. And I've met some of these people, right? Like I know people who went viral literally overnight. And I've done very similar things as they have done, sometimes even almost exactly the same steps that they've done and not had the same success. I've noticed this over and over again in my work, and it's actually taught me to not be influenced by somebody else's success story because a lot of times it is luck. And I think that's very important when it comes to NFTs and hearing these type of things, right? NFT is also a really great point in one of these articles was that instead of convincing you to buy stuff you don't need, they're convincing you to buy imaginary optimism based on mass enchantment. And I think that mass enchantment is very much part of all these big success stories and these fear of missing out that people have as a result of them. Another point is that what doesn't get seen among the flashy website and occasionally beautiful NFT artwork is the huge volume of minted pieces. And mint is a term for virtually like somebody who makes NFT and it's now public and available for sale. There's a huge volume of minted pieces that do not sell. Selling an NFT is not that different from selling a print of artwork. And especially the fact that it's easier to sell for people that have a huge audience and raving fans. So, an example off the top of my head is Gary Vaynerchuk and his success. Kevin, gosh, why am I blanking? A Proof Collective, Kevin Rose is another huge, great example. And if these names are unfamiliar to you, just think about some of the celebrities. I mentioned LeBron James earlier. Like, it's nice to see these people do well because it feels like a proof of concept. But we have to look at ourselves relative to our own situation. If we don't have that fame, celebrity, and influence and audience size, we can't necessarily expect to have the same success. Now, of course, there are examples of people who were, quote, nobodies who were able to be very successful with things like this, but that may be lucky. That may be a unique thing to them. There's so many factors that go into this. So I hope that you don't get swayed to buy something or make something just because of those success stories, hoping that it would be the same for you too. Um, and the article also says that there's a tiny minority of sellers that are getting the success, and the vast majority will only lose money. Uh, so looking at this in terms of what you have to lose, I think has been really helpful for me in terms of cryptocurrency. Like I only bought crypto that I was willing to lose. And this is another reason like I try not to look at it too much. I'm not worried about like putting it into my bank account. This is kind of like play money. Like even if it's $5, it's relative to each person. Like for one person, they may only be able to gamble with $5 into cryptocurrency or an NFT. Another person may feel far more comfortable putting $500 or $5,000 into something. So your situation is going to be vastly different from another, and you have to find your own comfort zone with all of this. It's also important to keep in mind that we're still in the very early days of all of this in terms of what digital ownership actually means. And it's also helpful to know that that could be a plus side or a downside, right? Digital ownership is the big like selling point of NFTs. So that might be very beneficial to us in the future. It might end up not being beneficial to us. It's just too early to tell. And this goes on both sides. So if you're skeptical about NFTs, you might be right. They may not be as valuable as we think they are right now. And the opposite could absolutely be true too, where NFTs could be really valuable and super commonplace. And I mean, that's a little bit more of my belief system is I'm seeing people doing really interesting things with the utility of NFTs. And I think that actually comes up in a little bit in some of my other notes. And This is a phenomenal point, especially given that I have come back to this point over and over again in my videos, which is community. In one of the articles, I think it was on every.to, it said that owning a piece of art in isolation, collections enables a new promise, which is community. NFTs now bring an acute sense of belonging and involvement, which can lead to new mentors and friendships. And a lot of people, as I've mentioned in previous videos, are lonely, like they really want community. And a lot of NFTs are driving that home. They're promising the community. I mean, even platforms like Discord are all about community, which I think is awesome. Sometimes it's a little too exclusive. A lot of the bigger NFTs make it seem like you can become part of the community if you have this exclusive NFT. You can go to private events and parties. And that's really neat. But what about the people that don't get in because they didn't have the money to buy the NFT? What about the people that didn't get the NFT quickly enough? I mean, there's so much involved with just obtaining the NFT. And my heart breaks a little bit for people that feel left out. That's a part of NFTs I don't love. And I think aside of that whole industry that makes me feel a little concerned, and we have to just really step back and breathe through all of that hype and feeling of loss there if we don't get to participate. Now with MLMs, your entire community in a lot of cases rests on the singular goal behind the financial independence by selling a product. And within the world of Web3, there's a belief in a larger movement around decentralization and peer networks that connects people. It doesn't matter what NFT you own or even how much Ethereum you own, Bitcoin, etc. If you simply believe in the future of that world, you can be part of the in-group. So that's a phenomenal point too. Like when we look at what is promised us in terms of a community, what the goals are collectively, and also what the belief systems are, generally people community forms around two separate things. One could be believing in something, and the other could be not believing in something. Again, this reminds me a lot of COVID and all the different perspectives around vaccines and masks. It felt like it was two different belief systems. Like, are you anti or pro these things? Do you believe in them or not? Do you think they're right or they're wrong? They're good or they're bad? A lot of us like to take sides because we feel unified through whatever side we're on. That doesn't usually make me feel very good. I'm very much a gray area in the middle person. I like to see both sides. Ideally, I would be part of both sides unless it's a super extreme thing that goes against my ethics. So that's why I feel a little bit more comfortable with this, thinking like, all right, like I feel like I'm in the world of Web3. That definitely is one of my driving forces for learning more about it and doing these series. But I'm also trying to understand what it's like to be on the outside because I'm not fully in Web3 yet. Does that make sense? A few more points that I want to actually, no, I'm going to skip over them. Oh, actually, okay, one last one. This one was kind of interesting to me, which is that it pays to be part of something esoteric that is only going to increase in recognition. And to me, I looked at that thinking, are people really trying to dive into something new, to be in this early adopter wave, this innovation wave, simply so that they can be recognized for being early? And you know what? I will be completely honest, that is a driving force for me. I love feeling like I'm early to something. I love feeling like I'm in the minority. I'm actually someone who does not enjoy it when a ton of people are doing the same thing. That's when I start to lose interest. So I'm curious to see the evolution of how I'll feel in this time where we're evolving to Web3 and where my feelings are going to shift and my focus is going to shift. You're likely to see me doing the things that less people are doing versus the things that more people are doing. Once a certain percentage of people get on board with something, I'm like, all right, time to move on to something else. So I could that was like a humbling thing for me to read about, like increasing the recognition that we feel. There was a terminology and a couple pieces of lingo that I want to share before I wrap up today. Actually, I feel like I should just kind of come to my conclusion. As I mentioned, I'm going to link to these articles, the one at every.to, so you can read it for yourself. I don't know if there was a true conclusion in this article, but let's see. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of it. As projects expand to include more benefits, the ones left behind may not be the ones that lose the most money by overbidding, but simply the ones that fail to believe in the first place. The ones left behind. I guess that is, I mean, that's the last sentence of this article. So maybe there's a benefit to kind of being in between. It's not putting in too much, it's not staying out entirely, but it's just knowing enough so that you're aware versus like choosing to be ignorant on something. I don't know. Do you have a different viewpoint on what that means? Let me know in a comment. Send me a message. I would really love to hear your feeling on all of this. And then the other article that I referenced today that I encourage you to read is fstoppers.com. Again, I will link to that. And let's see what the final. Okay. This one was interesting too. The very last line in that article said, "This NFT bubble will burst. It's just a matter of when." And I've been feeling that too. I feel like we are in such a big bubble, or we have been. As I mentioned, like even just the last few months, there's been shifts. When I first started hearing about NFTs, which is probably in summer 2021, like 6 months ago, I had no idea what they were. And it felt like all these celebrities and these entrepreneurs and these wealthy people were getting on board. Now it feels like we're moving into this phase where a lot of like techie people and creatives and companies, and it's just like becoming overwhelmed. Like there's so many people doing the same thing. And to me, it's like probably going to burst, but it also reminds me of social media platforms. It reminds me of the creator economy and the influencer world, where there are a ton of new tools coming out. There's tons of new people doing the same things. It feels like it's super saturated, but so who knows when this NFT bubble will burst? Who knows what crypto will evolve to? None of us really know. That's the truth. And I think it's important for us to just look at it from a balanced perspective as much as we possibly can. And that's my big aim with these videos. All right, so a couple pieces of lingo that I've been picking up and learning more about when I was looking into NFTs. And by the way, I'm about to hit the 40-minute mark. So if what happened yesterday happens again, where the live stream just ends on everywhere except for TikTok, I apologize in advance. That's usually out of my hands. So I'm going to try to wrap up quickly. So as I was researching NFTs, I've noticed this acronym coming up over and over again, PFP. And that's reference to PFT or PFP collections, which is just a profile picture. So I guess profile being the P and the F and picture being the second P. Basically how people are using NFTs as their profile pictures. I talked about, I think in yesterday's video, how Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are all really focused on allowing people to make their NFTs their profile pictures, and how it kind of gives people like bragging rights and making them feel like they're part of a group, and acknowledging themselves, getting that recognition. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. I changed my profile picture on Twitter to just be my avatar that I made on the Ready Player Me platform. And you know what? If I had an NFT that I thought was really cool, I think I have 5 right now, aside from my own. And none of them are those PFP collections like CryptoPunks and I always forget what's the Bored Apes and Crypto Kitties, and there's all these female NFTs now that are more like images. Even celebrities are getting NFTs designed in their likeness. I think that's all cool, but it doesn't feel that cool to me to buy yet. But who knows? If I did buy one of those, I probably would make it my PFP or profile picture, whatever. Okay, and then the other term that I want to touch upon that I have seen so many times, but honestly did not have a good understanding of, is the term DeFi or DeFi. And it's spelled DEFI. And that stands for decentralized finance. I'm going to link to, and right now I'm displaying a page from the ethereum.org website. I've used this website before. They have really good explanations that break down things to help you better understand. So, a few points about what DeFi is. I hope I'm saying it right. Maybe it's DeFi. Doesn't really matter. Um, but it is decentralized finance, which offers financial instruments without relying on intermediaries such as brokerages, exchanges, or banks. Instead, it uses smart contracts on a blockchain. One thing I want to talk about in a future episode is what smart contracts are. DeFi gives you control and visibility over your money, and the markets are always open. There are no centralized authorities who can block payments or deny you access to anything. On the Ethereum website, there's a nice little chart breakdown of comparing DeFi to traditional finance. So in DeFi, and it drives me nuts when I don't know how to pronounce things. So I'm just going to commit to DeFi or DeFi. No, I'm going to say DeFi. So with DeFi, you hold your money. With traditional finance, your money is held by companies. With DeFi, you control where your money goes and how it's spent. With traditional finance, you have to trust companies not to mismanage your money, like lend to risky borrowers. With DeFi, transfers of funds happen in minutes. Traditional finance payments can take days to due to manual processes. With DeFi, transaction activity is pseudonymous. That's an interesting word. And with traditional finance, activity is tightly coupled with your identity. With DeFi, it's open to anyone. Traditional finance requires you to apply to use their financial services. With DeFi, the markets are always open, as I mentioned. With traditional finance, markets close because employees need breaks. It's funny, I've never thought of it that way. I guess it's because traditional finance runs on like a 9 to 5 schedule or whatever hours the stock exchange and banks are operating. And I've never thought like, they must close because people need to go home and not work on weekends. And they need to go home and eat dinner and be with their family or friends or their cats. Okay, and last but not least, with DeFi, it's built on transparency. Anyone can look at the product's data and inspect how the system works. And with traditional finance, their institutions are closed books. You can't ask to see their loan history, a record of their managed assets, and so on. I mean, when it's broken down like that, it feels incredibly appealing. And this kind of makes me feel even more excited. And that kind of ties back into this whole point is certainly there are issues and certainly there are skepticisms and things that we need to better understand and developments that need to take place when it comes to all of Web3. And I understand why people are hesitant to buy cryptocurrency and to do NFTs, to buy them or to make them, to sell them. There's a lot of confusion happening here. But at the core, a lot of the things that I just shared about decentralized finance really resonates with me and I think may be a better system for it. So I'm really rooting for all this to work out for our benefit, obviously. I think a lot of this is a direction we're already going into that's not going to stop, but a lot of this remains to be seen. So that's why I'm here doing daily videos, sharing with you what I learned, sharing the news, going along this journey with you, bringing you into my life with full transparency. And I hope it's been beneficial to you. I feel like this is my best episode yet. I haven't had any tech issues yet. I went straight through the live stream. I'm so excited about that. My microphone, I guess the issue has been the wire all along. So I'm just thrilled. So thank you for being here, whether you're watching live or the recording. I'll be back again tomorrow with episode 12. And don't forget that you can go to whitneylauritsen.com/web3, which is linked in my bio. That's where I have all the details on this series. This is where you can go and ask me questions. You don't even need to tell me your name or your email at this moment. I'm still testing it out. I'm just using a Google form because that was the quickest way I could set this up. But for now, you can just go type in a question, press submit, and I'll do my best to answer it. I will be ignoring any spam or cruelty or whatever else in there. It's truly for legitimate questions as much as I can control. All the previous episodes are there. The podcast audio only version of this is there if you prefer it. And eventually, the Discord community will be available to anyone who is holding the well coin on Rally. And also, as promised, coming up soon, I will be doing some Rally airdrops, which will allow you to acquire some of the coin for free. And little update here, it's currently worth 16 cents, which is up from the last time I mentioned it was 15 cents. The other cool thing here is that you get rewards for holding it. The rewards go out to Rally coin holders every, I think, Saturday evening and then show up on Sunday. So Sunday mornings are always kind of fun because I'll go into Rally and like see how many rewards I've acquired. I'm currently supporting, I think, 41 creators on the platform. Rally has somewhere between like 250 to 300 creators on there. So you can go into the Discover Coin section and check out all these amazing people. There's musicians, there's live streamers, there's athletes on here, there's really interesting creative people. I mean, I'm always amazed by who shows up. And then you can go and support them based on their price, based on how many rewards you get. It's such a cool system. So I hope that you'll check it out. And I'm always here to answer questions about Rally if you're curious. And in full transparency, if you don't want to buy Rally, that's completely fine. I understand any skepticism or choices that you want to make. There's never any pressure on my end. So that's it for today. Hallelujah. I rarely say that word, but that's the emotion that just came out of my mouth to celebrate no tech challenges. Woohoo! I hope this is the case every time. All right, I'll be back again tomorrow. Hope to see you then and wishing you all the very best with your own Web3 journey.